This is the Algebra 1A video lesson for section 2.9 percents. So in this lesson, we're going to solve percent problems using proportions and the percent equation. So the first thing we need to do to solve problems involving percents is to use proportions or the percent equation, which is this here. But another way to think about this is A is P percent of B. This is the other one I like, is part over whole equals percent over 100. So this is a proportion, and that fits in here, right? A is P percent of B, so the part is the percent or percent of whole, right? So we're talking about, when we're talking about percents, we're talking about parts and wholes. And so the part over the whole is equal to the percent over 100. So let's see this first problem. It says, what percent of 56 is 42? So if we set up our part over whole equals percent over 100, we can fill in the pieces. So what percent of 56? So this is my whole, is 42, and this is my part. And so what we're looking for is what percent is going to be my x. So this is going to be 42 over 56 equals x over 100. Okay, then we can just solve this percent. This is a proportion problem. Since x is on top here, we can just multiply both sides by 100. And then 100 times 42 divided by 56 equals 75. So x, right, this goes to 1, equals 75. And so the answer is 75%. Okay, so here is one for you to try. So set up your part over whole equals percent over 100. Figure out which one is your part, which one is your whole, and then where your x is going to go, and then solve the proportion. And then after you press pause, and then check back for the solution. Okay, and so hopefully you got 60%, right? The part was 54, the whole was 90, and then x was our percent. And we just had to multiply both sides by 100 to get 60. Okay, another way to solve percent problems is to use a percent equation. And so this is, A is P percent of B. So if you know what the percent is, you can turn the percent into a decimal and just multiply it by the whole. So this is actually, again, this is my part equals, and then this is my percent over 100 times my whole, right? And then this is it as a decimal. So it's the same equation, just moved around a little bit. Okay, so let's solve this one using this equation. Okay, so if what percent of 50 is 25? So if we want to get this by itself, right, we're going to put our tracks around our equal sign, and we're going to divide both sides by 50. And so 25 divided by 50 is 0.5. Right, so percent, right? But P percent is then, this is the percent as a decimal, right? So if you multiply that by 100, you just get 50%, right? And so when you have a percent as a decimal, basically you're multiplying by 100, so you just move the decimal spot too, right? When you have a decimal of a percent, I think this is just a review. Say we had 0.48, right? And that's a number. If you write it as a percent, you're just moving the decimal 2 spots. So this would be equal to 48%. Okay, hopefully you remember that from pre-algebra. Moving on, this is another problem. Okay, so what percent of 40 is 2.5%? So we can still set up using our part over whole equals percent over 100 if we want, or we can use our part equals P percent of whole. I think for most of these, it's going to be the best to use these. If you already have the percent, it's better to use this one. So just stick with this one. So what percent of 84 is 63? So let's write our part is 63. Our whole is 84. We don't need the percent, and this is over 100. And we can just multiply both sides by 100. And we get 75. So it's 75%. If we did do it this way, right, this would be 63 equals what percent of 84? We would just divide both sides by 84. 63 divided by 84 is 0.75. That equals X percent. So to turn a decimal into percent, remember we just moved the decimal spot to 2 places, and so this becomes 75%. So either one, I feel like most times we just like to use this because it's just one way to do it. So just always do it that way and you're fine. Okay, except for when I said, if you know what the percent is, it makes it easier to use this formula. So this other formula. So let's try it with that. So a dress shirt is on sale for 30% off. It's normally 38.50 cents. How much does it cost on sale? So we want to figure out how much are we getting off, right? So if it's 38.50, to figure out what's 30% of that, we just have to multiply this by 30% as a decimal, which is, in this case, we move the decimal place backwards to go to the decimal form of the percent. So this is going to be 0.30. So you just take 38.50 times 0.3, or 30, and you get 11.55. So that's how much you get off, right? So you're going to be saving this amount, right? But what's the question asking? How much does it cost on sale? So if it's 38.50 and you're getting 11.55 off, you just subtract them. So 38.50 minus 11.55 is 26.95. Okay? Okay, so here's one for you to try on your own. The car sold for 60% less than it was originally paid for. If they paid $9,000 originally, what was the price it sold for now? So try this one on your own and then check back for the solution. Okay, so for this one, you just need to turn 60% into a decimal and multiply it by 9,000. That's how much they got off the original price, right? 60% less. So we're going to subtract that from the original and you get 3,600. Okay, and now we're going to do one where we're going to find the whole instead of the part or the percent, right? So again, this is saying 125% of what number is 17.5. So this is my percent. What 125% of what number? This means it's the whole, and this is my part. So we're going to use our formula, part over whole equals percent over 100. And then plug in our values. This is 17.5, whole is my X, and then 125 is my percent over 100. Okay, in this one, because the X is in the denominator or the bottom of the fraction, we're going to do cross multiplying. So 17.5 times 100 is, we just moved the decimal 2 places, 1,050 equals 125x, and then we can divide both sides by 125 to get x alone. 1750 divided by 125 is 14. So x equals 14. And that's my answer. Right? So 125% of 14 is 17.5. In this case, you notice that the part, which is 17.5, is actually more than the whole, right? And that's because, right, this is 125%. That means it's more than one. That's more than itself. So that's why this goes up, even though it's the part. Okay, so this one is one for you to try on your own. 30% of what number is 12.5? So use your formula here, plug in your values, and then solve for x, solve for the whole, and then check back for the solution. Okay, and then we get about 41.7 if you rounded it to the nearest tenth. Is your answer. And just a note for the homework, there's a problem that talks about markup. That's going to be on it. It's talking, what does it say? It's talking about a beauty salon, and it's selling styling gel, and it says how much they cost, but then they mark up the price. That means they're going to be charging more than they paid for it, right? So that they can make some money. So think about that in the context of, remember we were talking about, oh, if you get 30% off of a shirt, you subtract it, right? But if they're going to charge more for something, right? Figure out what that something is, and then you're going to add it. So be careful with that one. Take that one slow. I think it's number 20. Okay, time for practice. Enjoy.